The Metal Max series started in the early 90s and has had a number of releases since, with XENO Reborn being the latest addition to the non-linear post-apocalyptic RPG franchise. XENO first released on the PS4 and the PlayStation Vita back in 2018, and this Reborn version is now about to release on the Nintendo Switch. Will it hit the mark, or does it tank? Well, thank you to the publishing team for the review code, and now let's find out. The story takes place in Japan, where a supercomputer attempts to destroy humanity in order to prevent further ecological disasters. This incident is known as the Great Annihilation, and you control the protagonist known as Tails a century after said event. Tokyo Bay and most of the surrounding regions have become desert wastelands and is known as Dystopia by the remnants of humanity. Using the iron base and by gathering more survivors, Tails and his crew are the only thing standing between the enemy known as Suns and complete genocide. The story felt a bit flat at times, especially since you'll only gather snippets of this world's history. Being a non-linear adventure, the story's progression is tied to the player's efforts to seek out knowledge, and the bar inside your base is probably the best place to learn more on the fall of mankind to the machines. Metal Max Xeno is a third-person role-playing game with turn-based combat, which will see you exploring and battling mutants and machines alike. There are also side quests to carry out, including the bounty missions that serve as a boss battle within an area. Each area is pretty large, with minimal inclines and dips amongst the ruins. Your character can be equipped with weapons and armour that will help them cross the desolate, bone-dry areas and even ride a tank. These armoured vehicles come in all shapes and sizes and can be customised down to the smallest of details. You can replace cannons for machine guns, change the colour of your vehicle and add chips that grant some brilliant boons. On one occasion I had a monster buggy that carried 5 machine guns. The chip it had equipped granted for all to fire simultaneously, meaning that I could dispatch enemies very quickly. Your base will have a shop and a means to build more components, as well as sell anything you do not need. It is here where your vehicle can be customised further, as well as tuned to suit your needs. All components and mods have a certain amount of weight to them, so it is important to either select the right mods, install a better engine, or reduce the weight of each attachment. The latter will also affect durability, and balancing different attributes is crucial when creating your dream vehicle of destruction. Another factor to bear in mind is the different elements that enemies are either strong or weak to. This is especially important when hunting down bounties, as they most certainly present a challenge. Their eradication will reward the player with a huge amount of cash and some items which can be used in fabricating your own offensive attachments. These bosses respawn again after some time, which means that they can be farmed for parts. Battle is initiated when you either attack the enemy or if their alert gauge fills up. Battles are turn-based, although enemies and team members get to carry out a command after a cooldown period. This is similar to games like Chrono Trigger or Xenoblade Chronicles, and battles can be set to automatic or manual. There is something quite amazing in seeing your platoon firing at kaiju-inspired monstrosities. You must replenish ammo and repair your tank during this time, or the driver will be forced to carry out the battle on foot. The lack of a linear story path can be a great thing for an RPG such as this one, although this time round it was a little difficult to get over the learning curve and irregular difficulty spikes. Personally, I found it particularly hard to follow a main quest, for example, as the area map can only be seen on the HUD or in the pause menu. There is no zoomed out version that allows the player to survey the environment properly. This could have easily been remedied, but a lot of the interface and game mechanisms just come across either too antiquated or just too rigid. One such example, which is found in similar games sometimes to be fair, is the 1 health point revival upon ending a battle or running away. I've seen only a handful of reviving items scattered around, and when a teammate is defeated, they will remain dead until you head back to base. I feel the game would have benefited from fallen allies recovering 1 health point after battles, especially since there is no real penalty for having your team wiped out. Browsing in the shop and creating new tank components also suffers from overexerted steps. The main camera cannot be fully zoomed in or out, which can cause issues when in tight spaces like in the underground levels. There is a lot to take in and enjoy, especially after learning the basics and gathering more survivors in your team. The tank modification allows for almost infinite combinations of weaponry, and getting right parts will see the player pouring a lot of time into this game. There is a lot of grinding required though, especially in the early hours, and this is just something to bear in mind. In terms of controls, they are responsive and use all 4 shoulder buttons to drive the tank forwards and backwards, as well as turning the turrets. Characters and vehicles can get stuck in the environment, but this is more of a technical issue than one caused directly by the controls themselves. On the whole, they do the job and don't hinder the gameplay, apart from the aforementioned camera, which can be a bit awkward at times. Metal Max Xeno Reborn has an engaging premise, and there are a few wow moments in the combat, although a few of the mechanics do feel a bit too dated for its own good. Gameplay gets 14 out of 20. Controls on the whole do a good job, although the camera maneuverability could have done with some refinement. They get 16 out of 20. In terms of the visuals and performance, well, the game does have a few frame rate dips here and there, mainly when there's too much going on at once. Graphically, some of the textures do look quite high res, such as the tanks themselves. However, some of the details more in the distance do look a little rougher, which does break the immersion to some degree. You can see that this is a remake, as some of the features, as I mentioned, do definitely look better, although the game still manages to show its age despite this at times. The problem of the rough looking textures is actually more prominent in docked, as everything just seems to pop a little bit better on the smaller screen. The characters and the world they inhabit vary in design, size and aesthetic, with most enemies taking inspiration from super robot animals from 70s anime. The animations feel slightly wooden, with characters and enemies standing out from the environment almost as if they do not belong in front of it. On top of this, there are a few spelling mistakes as well as huge blocks of text still in Japanese. Hopefully these issues will be rectified with a patch post-launch. The music is eclectic and varied enough, with bombastic electric guitar songs kicking in when commencing a big battle. All of the voice acting is in Japanese, and the roar of each tank engine and the loud explosions do the job in immersing you into this world. Visuals create an interesting world, and some of the special effects are great to see. Having said that, it does all just look a little dated, and visuals including performance get 14 out of 20. Audio is a strong point of the game, with a soundtrack that complements the on-screen action well. It scores 17 out of 20. Metal Max Xeno Reborn costs £39.99 and regional equivalents are on your screen now. There is also a digital deluxe version which includes some cosmetically changed weapons, plus both standard and limited edition physical versions. The game is enjoyable, and the ability to customise and mod your tanks can become an addictive experience. This is a remake that can have a player sinking over 50 hours on the first playthrough, but even with this playtime, and although it is a polished up remake, there are just a few too many mechanics and systems in place that make the game feel a bit too dated. With this in mind, value scores 13 out of 20. To conclude, Metal Max Xeno Reborn is finally released in the West, and fans will be happy to have it on Nintendo's hybrid console. There is a lot to enjoy here for sure, but the game does suffer from old genre tropes that affect the pacing somewhat. With a bit of patience and determination, the game does shine in its own right, and to be fair, there are very few role-playing games that will have you battling mechanical abominations in your own personalised tank. Metal Max Xeno Reborn gets a SwitchUp score of 74%. Thank you everybody for watching this review. I hope you enjoyed it. Please do remember to leave a like if you did. This one was written for us by Azdin over at Grinning Wolf Games, so thank you very much to you, Azdin. Link to his channel is in the top pinned comment. Please do go over there and give it a watch, it'd be very much appreciated. A quick thank you to our patrons as always for your continued support, and to each and every one of you for watching our videos. Take care, and until next time, happy gaming.